The new top 25 rankings are out in college basketball, and here today on the Hustle Pod, we are going to let you know which teams might be overrated, which teams might be underrated, who maybe shouldn't be ranked at all, and possibly a team or two that isn't ranked but deserves to be. And of course, we'll be looking at it from a betting perspective to help you pick some winners for the upcoming week and beyond. What's going on, everybody? Bryan Power here with you on a Tuesday, and to aid me in this exercise is the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend and yours, Adam Trigger. Trig, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. College basketball season, I would say we're a little bit over a month in at this point. It feels like it's been going for longer than that. I just I don't know what that is. If it just it's because these teams play so many more big time games early. The evolution of MTEs where everyone plays them. It seems like I'm jealous of my friends that live in the city. It seems like they get a big time college hoop game at the Garden or the Barclays Center, on a weekly basis at this point. So it feels like it's been going forever. But really, if you're betting college basketball, you got to pinch yourself a little bit. We're only a month in, and I all in on this opinion, Bryan. It's not like it used to be. When we were spry young pick sellers. Okay, November and December are not that easy anymore. It used to be, if you did your homework, the books were not as focused on it, and you could clean up in the non-conference. That the days of that are long gone with NIL, transfer portal, all these multi-team neutral court events. Dude, November and December is tough. And now it's if you can get through it and scrape out a little profit, I think you put yourself in a great position to really do some damage, once conference play starts.
Yeah, and I think, doing what we're going to do here today, look at the new top 25, see who's maybe ranked a little too high, ranked a little too low, what we think moving forward. It's a good time to do it because right now we're hitting exams, right? And obviously we've got these limited slates during the week in college hoops. The genesis of this idea, for those interested, if we can peel back the curtain for just a moment. Before I was at WagerTalk, I used to be at Covers, obviously, and I used to write a column, always examining the top 25 every week, letting the people know who I thought was ranked too high, too low, maybe who shouldn't be in the top 25, a couple teams who should be in the top 25 that weren't. So, Trig and I, it's Tuesday, right? The new top 25 comes out every Monday, so it's a fresh rankings, and I think let's look at the top of the rankings. We'll start here with is number 2 in the latest polls. Obviously a very good team, but I think one that might be a little too high, and that's Kansas. So Ken Pom has them 10th. I have them even lower than that in my power ratings, and that may be a surprise to some because, as you know, Trig, I'm off a pretty nice run here in December, 22-6 to start the month. My first win of this month.
Not bad.
Was Kansas money line against UConn. We were in Boston watching that game. They handed UConn their first loss of the season, did the Jayhawks. I thought it was a great spot to take Kansas. It's interesting. Kansas.
I think they're probably appropriately ranked based on what they've done. So you talk about 4 pretty good wins: Kentucky, Tennessee, UConn, Missouri. The one loss to Marquette is not a bad loss. The numbers are second nationally, 52.7% from the field. I thought they were probably the best team out of the best conference. So, if you've heard me sort of talk coming into the season, I'm very pro Big 12. So if I think you're the best team in the Big 12, I probably think you're the best team in the country. Now, from a betting standpoint, which is really what you and I are more concerned with, betting this team game to game, I think they could be a little bit overvalued but I think it's going to be more down the road. Right now, coming off a couple of games where they didn't cover, could they be in a nice spot potentially as this weekend being a little bit undervalued on the road at Indiana? Yeah, I think I could maybe see that. But I'll say, for the sake of this drill, this exercise here, I'll say they are appropriately ranked. I think you're going to be able to find value playing against them because it's Kansas. I think, and again, that I'm willing to throw out the top 25. All I care about is that you're a top 10 team. Kansas I would have them in my top 10 of any rate.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Now, I think for the next several teams we're going to talk about kind of all fall under the same umbrella, right? You talked about being a month into the season, and we only have a handful of remaining unbeaten teams. I think there's 8 is the exact number. I should have written that down. I believe it's 8. It's single digits. And the team, obviously the pollsters, if they still see a 0 on the loss column, you're getting in, you're going to be in the top 25. They're going to like you. But I think there's value fading these teams because obviously no one's going undefeated. I had some success over the weekend fading unbeaten teams. I faded Colorado State against St. Mary's. Thought that was a great spot to back the Gales, who are an underdog for the first time. Faded Cincinnati against Xavier. They always struggle in that crosstown rivalry when on the road. But let's start with a team that is still undefeated, ranked 11th in the country now. And again, it's solely because they're unbeaten at 9. Oklahoma. I think this is a top 20 team, but it's a group I'm probably looking to fade moving forward. So that's probably going to be a short number.
Yeah, I like this team because, as you know, JV McCollum is my guy. Transfers from Siena to Oklahoma. He very well could be one of the best guards in this league. If you've had a chance to watch this team play, I mean, he's just been fantastic. He looks as dominant as he did in the MAC, but he's doing it against far better competition. Just an excellent addition to their team. I've always liked Moser as a coach, and now I feel like he's kind of got the squad that he was always sort of expected to build, at Oklahoma. Now, this is a team that just because I like them doesn't mean they're not overvalued, right? And that's where you have to I haven't bet against them yet, but without question, this team is going to be overvalued in the market. There's going to be chances to go against them soon, maybe even sooner than the North Carolina game. Maybe you catch a boatload of points with Green Bay this weekend. Who knows? It'll probably depend on how their game plays out today. But
Green Bay.
I know you're looking at. I know you're eyeing. I know you're eyeing that game, Brian. I know you're eyeing that game.
What's the spread going to be on that game? What's the spread for that game?
Well, it depends on what Green Bay does tonight. Hopefully, they get killed, and we're getting just an absolute boatload of points. The thing is, this Oklahoma has played a very manageable, their schedule is their body of work is impressive, but it's manageable, impressive. They have name appeal wins. Opinion Iowa, USC, Arkansas all have their own issues, but they all when you start to look at them collectively, they offer some name appeal, right? So you look at what Oklahoma's done. They've smashed a bunch of bad teams, and then it's they beat Iowa, USC, Providence, Arkansas. Collectively, it seems impressive, but all those teams, Arkansas, I think they lost to NC Greensboro. USC just lost to Long Beach State the other day, also has a loss to Irvine. Iowa's had sort of issues that have been sort of publicized at this point. The Providence win is nice, but that game was in Norman. So I'm with you here. This would be a team that I say is quite overvalued based on what I think they were supposed to be coming into the year. I still like them. You're not finding value with Oklahoma at this point, in my opinion.
Okay, let's stick in the Big 12, actually, because we hit the mid-majors afterwards. It'll just, I think, flow better. A team we mentioned last week. Oh my God, I know, but no, it was just last week. BYU. I talked about them. You talked about them. They'd covered every single spread. They came out like gangbusters, dump trucking everybody. They lose for the first time on Saturday against Utah. This is a team that's going to had been favored by a lot in every game. It was their first real test, other than the San Diego State game. They failed. Terrible start in Salt Lake, and then they rallied back to make a game of it. So now that they've taken us, what do we think about BYU? I talked about how last week, and this is still the case. They're a top 10 team in KenPom still, even after that loss. I have them power rated in the top 10. Do we see BYU start to fall? They're I think 18th. Yeah, they're 18th in the new rate top 25. Where are we at with BYU now that they have been shown to be vulnerable? Do they start on the radar what we saw Saturday in Salt Lake?
It's certainly concerning to me. If I was thinking that they were a top 5, top 10 team, because remember, Ben Carlson didn't play much. So Carlson came back for that game, or I'm sorry, Carlson, he had 50. The other Carlson, Brandon, had 15 points. So yeah, he played. That was the big news prior to the game. He played, the line dropped, and that's so my initial thought was, okay, this was the first team that looked like a team that it looked like a team that they're going to play in a night in, night out basis in the Big 12. It's really been you and I had this conversation on, was okay, they've been a monster against the number, but their win was over a kind of a Sandy team that still probably was priced up from what they did last year. And then they've just been smashing lesser teams. When this team gets into Big 12 play, I'll be looking for one thing, And that's how healthy are they? Because BYU, top 5 or 6 guys on the roster, I'll go to battle with them against just about any out there. Like those, that top 6 is awesome. My concern is if they start getting banged up and then they're in Big 12 play where every night it's Lubbock, it's Manhattan. Now you're in Lawrence. Now you're in Waco playing Baylor, Oklahoma, playing top 25 team on a nightly basis. If they get worn down, they're going to struggle there, right? Like they will. Like this, they don't have quite the depth and the physical, like the depth, like the physical depth up front that a lot of these other Big 12 teams have. So that's going to be the key, in my opinion, with BYU. There's going to be spots to play them. There's going to be spots to play against them. I would look at how the schedule plays out, though. If they're in one of those conference stretches, Bryan, where it's third game in 6 days, 7 days, and they're coming off like a drag out war with Kansas, maybe going against them the next game is not the worst call, but they've got the personnel, like their starters, if they're healthy, can hang. They are a very, very good basketball team. It'll just be how healthy they are, which is going to be to either put them as a play on or a fate, because I really think their top 6 is that good, but there's a drop off after it.
Yeah, and obviously now being in the Big 12, travel is an issue. That's a very good point that you made. Remember, West Virginia, UCF in the that's not exactly a nice leisurely walk from Provo, either of those two places. Okay, let's hit the mid majors. Colorado State, I mentioned them a little bit ago. I faded them against St. Mary's. I love that play. I actually went back. That was a 4% play. St. Mary's had a 5% with Washington over Gonzaga. I actually went back and forth, which I liked, to be honest with you. I liked both of them a lot. Both came up with W's. I was very happy about that. Colorado State's still ranked, but to me, this team is not head and shoulders above the other top teams in the Mountain West, the New Mexicos, the Nevadas, the San Diego States. There's injury concerns in Fort Collins right now. Do we think Colorado State's coming back down to earth moving forward?
So this is another tough one, because this was a team. This is hard as a handicapper, okay? And this is like the exact scenario I'm in with Colorado State. I loved Colorado State coming into the season. If you look at last season, 15-18, 6-12 in the Mountain West, that was never representative of what this team should have been. They had big injury issues, like probably one of the unluckiest teams in the country as far as like injuries and like guys missing time, and then just being unlucky. They had a couple of close losses. It all kind of snowballed for them. Nico Medved's a tremendous coach, and they get Isaiah Stevens back, who I think is the best player in that conference. If not the best, he should be considered in the group of the top players in that league. So, Bryan, if you ask me who I like to win the league, it's Colorado State. Now, where they're now in relation to what they've done, they rattled off wins against Boston College. They caught Creighton on a horrible shooting day. They beat Colorado. They beat Washington. I was with you. I am beside myself that I didn't make it a client play. I love the spot for St. Mary's, and I had, let's be honest. I mean, I'll just be honest. I've had success not betting against Colorado State, and I was kind of like, you know what? I'm just not gonna. Why poke the bear, right? Like they're at home,
Sure.
But it was a huge revenge game for San Diego State. Going forward, I'm really not sure, because, and it's because of what I just kind of laid out. They're a team that I'm personally high on. I thought they would win the Mountain West coming into the season, but now after non-conference, probably the favorite. Should they be the favorite? I don't know. The Mountain West is tricky. There's a lot of teams in the Mountain West that are all quality basketball teams, but it's still sort of, the jury's still out on who's going to get over the hump, in my opinion, right? Like, look at Utah State. Utah State's been fantastic. I didn't think Danny Sprinkle would have that team playing the way they've played at this point in the year, but they are.
Yeah.
San Diego State, in my opinion, was the favorite coming into the season. I wouldn't make them the favorite. I'm not as high on them. And then you've got teams like Boise State who still very much deserve to be in the conversation, right? Like New Mexico deserves to be in the conversation. They had a loss early in the year with I believe House, or they were missing guys. I think House sat in one of their games early in the year. So it's an interesting league. It's always like a league that I love to watch parity. I still have Colorado State first, but it doesn't mean they're not overvalued, like based on the betting market.
There are 7 is the exact number, as you were talking there. I just looked it up. 7 teams defeated in the country. We lost Princeton on Sunday. They were the 8th, and then they lost to St. Joe's. But one of the remaining 7 is James Madison, who is in the top 25. You and I talked about James Madison early in the year because they had that big win over Michigan State. And everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe James Madison just beat Michigan State. And people who know this, well, James Madison's the favorite in the Sun Belt. Then they went to Kent State and won, which you and I both know is very difficult to do. But man, you look at some of the, again, KenPom has James Madison 71st. Not a lot of respect there. I'm not that low, but I understand you're going to travel to see James Madison now coming up very shortly. What do you think we're going to see? What do we do with the Dukes from a betting perspective? Because certainly big favorites now all the time, or most games, this team, because let's be honest, they're not one of the 25 best teams in America, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is last year's Charleston, isn't it? Like this is Charleston vibes from last year, because you know what? They're not. I'm with you. They're a fade for me against the number. They're only going to probably regress at this point, but they very well might be like 16-0. You know, if you look at who they have coming up, like there's not a guaranteed loss on their schedule anywhere. Like, with that being said, like, so I will be in the building this weekend. I'm going to visit our good friend Aaron Kidd. Him and I are going to take a short drive from him, a couple-hour drive from him, down to Hampton, Virginia for this game, Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. I will be on Hampton plus the points, probably against I can't see myself getting a bad number there. So Hampton plus the points makes complete sense. Yeah, Brian, I'm with you. This would be the one from this segment that I think you can leave with and say, okay, like overrated, overvalued. I've got to just play against this team and look for spots to play against them. You mentioned the Michigan State win. Hasn't really aged that well. I mean, listen, a win at the Breslin Center over Michigan State is a very good win. It doesn't, they could, the Spartans could be finished 10th in the Big Ten. That's still a good win for a team from the Sun Belt. But, you know, when they won that game, when James Madison won that game, Michigan was considered to be a top 5 team nationally. They've since lost to Wisconsin, Nebraska. Like, you know, they have all sorts of issues. So, and then, you know what? Kent State, you were all over Kent State being like a team in for some serious regression. And James Madison should never have won that game. That was one, you talk about us grinding out Yale and Vermont. I hear you on the basketball show yesterday. We're at dinner grinding that game. People that bet Kent State probably have something to say about a ridiculous ending to a game, you know, and then having lost to James Madison there, because that was a game that was another. I think James Madison trailed by 5 with like 4 seconds left and managed to tie the game and then win it in multiple overtimes. So, you know, those two games, like if let's just say that the Michigan State win and the Kent State win aren't as good as they appeared earlier in this year, what else has this team really done? I mean, okay, Southern Illinois is a good win. That was on a neutral. Old Dominion, I got sucked in with them last week, Brian. Like, that's a bad basketball team. I saw them in person, and I was just like, I thought they were going to get up for like a rivalry game. They have issues. They're way too small. They try to play a style that's not super successful. So yeah, Charleston vibes right here, in my opinion. This James Madison, 94.14 points per game. They're first in the country. They're hitting threes at an outrageous rate. It's got to stop at some point. And I think you're going to start getting some real juicy numbers with some underdogs, specifically Hampton on Saturday, when I'm in the bill worth at least 1.5 to the number. Yeah, I would start fading again. I would start fading James Madison going forward.
Yeah, and that Michigan State game, one last thing to talk about, that Michigan State might as well have had you and I shooting threes in that game as poorly as they shot from behind the arc, because, I mean, in all due respect to you, I don't know how your jump shot's looking these days. I know that I'm not making one from behind the arc. So, that helped James Madison as well. There is one more team we want to hit on. It is a team that you and I have both criticized in the past, and then they've all come out of the woodwork for us when we've done so. Miami of Florida. I had several big plays against this team down the stretch last year. Did not go well, admittedly. Obviously, they made a run to the elite, despite the fact they had a defensive efficiency rating outside the top 100. You, after your trip to the Bahamas, gave your thoughts on the Hurricanes, and they came after you with pitchforks for those takes.
Oh, yeah.
On social media. Miami, it's interesting. they're a team that wins a lot of games. They win a lot of games close, but when they lose, man, it is bad. Like, they got housed by Colorado on Sunday. They got housed by Kentucky early in the year. This is a team still on the fringes of the top 25. I'm looking foolish until they lost in the Elite Eight. But Miami's not one of the 25 best teams in America.
Couldn't agree more. Didn't hear any Miami fans after Sunday. Colorado was a 4% play for me, an easy blowout win. And the Miami fans that were all over me for picking Kansas State in the Bahamas. Miami won that game. I was fielding Twitter messages for 24 hours, thanking them as they upped my interaction on Twitter, but haven't heard from them since. Because since has gotten blown out by Kentucky, they've gotten blown out by Colorado. They were unimpressive against Notre Dame. Like, listen, I think Miami's a pretty easy handicap this year for a couple of reasons. One, they're going to struggle with size because right now they rely on Norchad Omier down low, who is a guy where if he can bully you, meaning like he's a big dude, and if he can like be more physical than you, like he'll be fine. If you have legitimate size to throw at him, he's going to have a hard time. And that's kind of what Colorado was able to do. They were able to throw legit size at Omier, and Miami struggled a little bit because they're missing Isaiah Wong. That's the key here. He was the guy last year that, like, I mean, when they needed a shot to go in, he just made a shot. He was that good of a shot maker. And as much as I love Nigel Pack as a player, he's not that kind of shot maker. He was against Kansas State. He was hitting horse shots, Bryan. He was falling out of bounds. They were going in, hitting threes, but like, I don't know he can do that consistently. And Omier is going to struggle with some size. Like he's undersized for his position. And I think you can, like, if you've got bigs that can defend the rim and push Omier away from the rim, Miami might not be able to just get buckets the way they could last year, but yet they're still being treated like they were like their last year's team a little bit. And that's where I fully agree with you that Miami's a little bit overvalued because this is not last year's team.
No, it is not. And that does it for that exercise. Now, it is Tuesday, and I do want to give the people some actionable info for Tuesday. What do you say here, Trig? It's a limited slate, like we talked about, because of exams. So we don't have big cards, which kind of nice because it's easier to handicap the game, right? You don't have to like go through, 75 games every day. It makes it a little easier. And boy, do I have a game for you today. Last week on the show, we talked about the 3 teams in the country that had yet to suffer an ATS loss. That list is now down to 1. It is number 1, Arizona. Arizona, I guess going back to the last exercise, is, for my money, the number 1 team in the country. Well, there's only one team in the country that has yet to cover a single spread, and they are in action Tuesday. It is Georgia Southern. Not only are the Eagles 0-9 against the spread, Trig, they're 0-9 straight up. That's not good if you're new to the program. And boy, do they have a tall order tonight. They have to face Tennessee, but this number is massive. It's up to 34.5. And I like to see, I talked about this on the Power 5, Saturday against Illinois at home. That was a great spot for Tennessee because Illinois was coming off the FAU win. Tennessee, 4 of their last 5 opponents have ranked. Okay, and the Illinois one was the first win. They've got a trip to San Antonio to face NC State on deck. So I think it's pretty easy to see the Rick Barnes team maybe not getting up for tonight. We saw Gonzaga last night, even though they were off a loss, fail to cover a huge number against Mississippi Valley State.
They're more of a defensive squad, so it's like I think like they could even play a dominant game and still win by like high 20s, and you're probably good. I've got one for you real quick, Bryan. I want to give out an actionable item here before we go. This is one that's like, listen, laying 19 is just not fully my style. And of course, now I've missed this number. It's been bet up a little bit. But I think Cincinnati probably bounces back tonight and probably hammers Bryant. So Bryant's a team that I got to see play a couple weeks ago in person. They have 0 interior play. And that's going to be an issue for them, in my opinion, against Cincinnati. This is a Cincinnati team that gets points in the paint. They're 17th nationally in rebounding. They're coming, Lakin and Bonogo are both like legitimate bigs. And of course, they come off their first loss of the season, losing to crosstown rival Xavier. So one would have to imagine that Cincinnati's going to be a little bit pissed off here. I thought about laying 19. It got bet up to like 20 and a half. So it's not going to be a client play for me, but I think Cincinnati probably win minus 20 and a half out as some actionable info for the show.
All right. And that will do it here for a Tuesday. He's Adam Trigger. Give you a little actual info. We ran through the top 25 as well, who we like, who we don't like. Check us out, WagerTalk.com. He's WT.buzz/AT. I am conveniently WT.buzz/BP. And that does it for the Hustle Pod on a Tuesday. Please like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. Let us know how we're doing. And until next time, let's cash some tickets.